The following episode was made before Crystal and John K. donated to us. We will begin thanking them properly next episode. Real stories of werewolves, of Dogman history, from your emails, illustrated and animated with the democratizing magic of machine learning AI. Welcome to Scary Stories.
Dogman is a supernatural and mythological construct. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I like some of your stories, but others I can tell are fake and that you're being played by the people who send them to you. There is often an easy way to tell if Dogman stories are real or not. If the person claims their eyes glow during the day, that is fake, as they only glow at night. If the storyteller claims the Dogman is just an animal, they are making it up or confusing something else for the Dogman. Dogman is a supernatural kind of thing. It is not an animal born looking that way. It is always, and I mean every single time, the result of someone evil trying to do something bad. Dogman is not a natural creature, and in fact, cannot exist for long in our natural world. For you see, Dogman is a supernatural and mythological construct. I'm in my 60s now, and I've been interested in cryptozoology, ufology, and anything strange or weird since before it became fashionable. Well, since before cryptids became fashionable at least. UFOs were in vogue even before I was born, it seems. When I was younger, I believed that UFOs were nuts and bolts spacecraft from other planets, because that's what the books I read suggested. I felt that Bigfoot was a real animal unknown to science that would eventually be captured and explained. I felt that every mystery in the world was explainable by science, even if some things were going to take a more sophisticated kind of science to explain. While I concede that this all may still be possible, that science may one day explain even the deepest mystery, I have to say, I no longer expect the answers to come as easily and as quickly as I once did. I now suspect that, to understand some of these phenomena, we're going to have to evolve not just into a new way of thinking, but quite possibly we might need to evolve into a new form of being. And the humorous thing to me about all this is that my opinions and views have evolved over decades in spite of the fact that I've never seen a UFO and I've never seen a Bigfoot. If one has strongly held views about stuff that one has never actually seen, isn't that getting really awfully close to a religious point of view? I think it's important to keep a sense of humor about oneself. Quite often when our intentions are most serious, that may be when our behavior becomes the most foolhardy. Now, I've told you that I never encountered a Bigfoot or a UFO, as far as I'm aware. I didn't say I'd never seen anything strange, though. I have seen something extremely odd and inexplicable, and in fact, this sighting or experience is the main reason that my views on Bigfoot and UFOs have changed. In fact, my entire life changed on the day that I saw what I think must have been a Dogman. I want to make it clear before I relate this narrative that I did not believe in Dogman before I saw it. Like many people interested in the strange back in those days, I believed in Bigfoot, but laughed at those who believed in Dogman or Pukwudgie or name the cryptid of your choice. In that era, I was considered wildly open-minded simply because I believed in both UFOs and Bigfoot. I knew people who believed in Bigfoot and some who believed in UFOs, but none of them believed in the possibility of both except me. Things are a lot less like that now, but back then, most fields of the strange were very compartmentalized in that way. And people who wrote science fiction or monster stories didn't believe in any of this. So it was a different time. I've said that I saw the Dogman, but in truth I saw him or it twice. That's part of the high strangeness of the phenomenon, at least to me. The only 2 days of the past 10 years that I forgot to bring my cell phone with me were the 2 times that Dogman came to say hello. That's only one of a number of odd synchronicities between the 2 events. The first story happened in 2011. I was dozing off in my chair and watching television. It wasn't late at night, but I was just tired and passing out early, like maybe 8:30 or 9 at night. My wife was fussing about and watching the same TV show I was nodding off to. The landline went off, and soon my wife was handing me the phone and telling me it was my mother. I was kind of out of it, and it took a while for me to understand that she was saying the electricity was off at her house. She was asking if ours was on or off. We were fine, so it either had to be a very localized blackout or maybe just her house. I agreed to come over and help out. My wife got me the good flashlight and our emergency battery-powered radio with batteries she'd been keeping in the fridge. I warned her that in the worst-case scenario, I might need to bring my mother and her cat back with me to stay with us for a while, and then I drove off into the night. Once I was in the car, I wanted to call my mother and tell her I was coming, but I realized I had left my cell phone at home. The best way to get to my mother's place from mine back then involved a little used old 2-lane highway number 45 that ran along the woods in Nashville. That's Nashville, Indiana, not Nashville, Tennessee. Now, as I came around some trees and looked ahead down the road, I saw a man standing on the side of the highway, waving his arms over his head. I naturally started to ease off on the gas, thinking it might be someone in distress. As the car slowed and I got a closer look, though, I could see that this was not a man. I was looking at a large, hairy creature standing on its hind legs with glowing eyes, apparently reflecting my headlights. It was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen, yet it was behaving like a stranded traveler. I slammed my foot on the gas and screamed in fear as I got out of there as fast as I could. When I got to my mother's, it turned out that the electric wires heading toward her house had been cut. We almost walked right into them in the dark. We would have been fried. I got her back to my place, then called for repair people to come out to fix things up. I didn't tell anyone about the sighting at first, but I eventually had to tell my wife because it wouldn't stop bothering me and nagging me. I kept having nightmares about it. I couldn't believe I had seen this werewolf type thing, and that it had been trying to flag me down on the side of the road. My wife's opinion was that it was some form of sleep paralysis, but I wasn't paralyzed, and I was driving. I certainly hope I wasn't asleep when I was doing that. So now fast forward to almost 3 years ago, when my wife and I were driving home from my mother's wake. We were both in a somewhat somber mood, and I was extremely sad, obviously. For this reason, my wife had offered to drive and I had no objection. As I was staring out at the world whizzing by, coming to terms with my loss, I saw something that immediately broke me out of my depression and sent me into a bit of shock. I pointed and asked my wife if she saw it. She started to give me a lecture about not interrupting her when she was driving, so I pointed more and asked louder, did she see that thing? From the sound of her surprised gasp, I could tell that she did, in fact, see what I saw. And what I saw was a very large man-shaped hairy thing with a dog-like head, and it was trying to flag us down. It was looking directly at us with dark eyes and waving its hands over its head as though asking us to stop. I reached for my cell phone to take a picture and I couldn't find it. I searched around in all my pockets and inside the car, but I couldn't find my phone, and soon the Dogman was far to our rear. I thought I had left my phone at my mother's wake and we talked about heading back. My wife said, since we were only a few minutes from home, she wanted to stop there, call back to the wake to see if anyone had noticed the phone, and then she could use the ladies' room before we headed back. That sounded like a good plan to me, so we went on home. Of course, once we got inside, we both saw my phone on the table near the door and we didn't have to head back. Because of the confusion over my cell phone, the second appearance of the Dogman kinda got shoved to the background and somewhat forgotten about. One day, we were discussing the wake in passing, and our conversation fell back onto the Dogman. My wife started giving her theory again that it was a hallucination. I asked her how, if it was a hallucination, she had seen it too. You know what her answer was? It was a mass hallucination. She actually said that. Of course, I don't have a better explanation for what happened twice. The only thing I can tell you for sure is that there's some other aspect of the Dogman besides just being a predatory carnivore in the woods. There's something that we traditionally call paranormal or supernatural about him. I'm not sure exactly what I mean when I say that, but I know for certain Dogman is a supernatural and mythological construct.
What bigger than a waffle on your plate? A waffle on your head would be just great. It's the waffle bee from NYC. Scary fashion for spring, you see. Black, birch, camel, navy, rust, or heather gray. One of these colors is just your way. Wear this hat and you'll be it. Link in the description for this vid. Get your own scary stories, waffle beanie today.
Dogman. In my bedroom. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I have a Dogman story for you that doesn't even make sense to me, but it was the most frightening thing I ever lived through. One night, back when I still lived with my parents just before I went away to college, I woke up hearing something or someone in my room. I thought it was the family cat, but then I remembered she had passed on a few months prior, and that realization woke me up completely. I cautiously peeked around in the room, trying to identify the cause of the noises I was hearing. When my eyes saw it, I wanted to scream. I didn't though, because this thing was massive. It was in my room, and it didn't seem to realize yet that it had awakened me. Its interest seemed to be focused inside my closet, where it was poking around, either investigating or else searching for something. Now, let me describe exactly what it was that I saw. It looked like a large man-shaped person or animal, and it was entirely covered with a fairly long, wavy hair or fur, which was dirty and knotted and matted. It was mainly black but had light or white-colored tips on the ends of the long fur. It had a broad back, and the hair seemed to naturally part right along the creature's spine, either growing out to the left or the right. It had a tail like a dog, which seemed to move as though it had a mind of its own. It was not a fake tail, just tacked onto a costume. It seemed real, and if it wasn't, then it was a pretty magnificent fake tail, I'll say that much. If this was a costume, it was the best costume. one created by a professional and a true artist. It stood up and turned around. I froze. I kept my eyes mostly shut, but opened just wide enough that I could still watch the thing. It stared at me through pitch black eyes, apparently trying to figure out if I was awake or asleep. I used all my concentration to continue breathing slowly. When I wanted to scream, there would have been nowhere to run to once it realized I was awake. It was standing between me and the bedroom door. The window behind me led to a 2-floor drop if I decided to go that route. I chose to continue pretending to be asleep and just pray that the monster went away before I became unable to keep up the ruse. The thing had the look of a shaggy dog, with droopy ears flopping down on either side of its dog-like face. This was not a werewolf. It was a were-dog. No wolf was ever this long-haired or shaggy. The thing examined me, and I made mental preparations to leave this mortal coil. I accepted that this might be the end for me. The creature took a step in my direction, and I felt certain deep inside that a whole lot of pain was about to happen. Then, the animal, or whatever it was, reconsidered and darted out of my room. It looked as though it turned the corner as it left, heading toward my parents' bedroom. I gasped in horror and stood up out of bed. I might have been a coward when I felt personally threatened by the creature, but the idea of it doing something to my parents was abhorrent to me. So I stood there and screamed. I shouted for my mother and father. I tore out of that room, getting my foot tangled in my blankets and falling face first onto the floor. I got up as fast as I could and ran into the hallway. There was no Dogman out there, or anything else out of the usual. I ran to my parents' room, my socks slipping on the smooth floor. It was hard to gain traction and move forward, but once I was in their doorway, I discovered both of them sitting up in bed, looking confused and upset. I assumed at the time this meant the Dogman was in the room, so I charged in, ready to give my life in order to save theirs. The thing is, nothing else was in there. Nothing at all, just them and their room. Both my parents wanted to know why I just scared the crap out of them and woke them up out of a deep sleep. This was a question I suddenly didn't have a really good answer for, so I made one up. I told them I had seen a prowler in the house, and I thought he had entered their room. My father rose out of bed and grabbed his Louisville Slugger. Together, we inspected every room and every closet on the second floor of the house. Then, we repeated the procedure down on the first floor. If anyone was in the house with us, they were doing a really good job of hiding themselves. I have no idea where that Dogman disappeared to, but my parents began referring to this incident as my prowler dream. I still didn't think it was a dream. I had insomnia from then on until I left for school. Once at the dorms, I could sleep normally again, but I never got a good night's sleep in that room at home. Even when I would go back to visit on holidays, I would ask to sleep in the guest room instead of my old bedroom, until my mom got the hint and switched the two rooms' purposes. Now guests visiting would sleep in my old bedroom. I don't know if any of them ever experienced anything strange in that room, because I never asked. To this day, I've never told my parents about that Dogman. To them, it was a prowler that I imagined during sleep paralysis or something like that. To me, though, it was then, and is now, the night that I saw Dogman in my bedroom. Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button. Or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.